Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the Weekend Wrap-Up Show. I'm David Thomas, Mr. Josh Blevins. Got a busy morning this Saturday morning, Josh. I know you've been out and about since like the crack of dawn.
Out and about this morning's broadcast. We're going to have sponsors, but it's actually brought to us by the Coffee Break and Southern Cup, both of who have caffeinated me this morning. So I'm running on caffeine.
You're loaded, and I made my own, and I'm on it too. So
lots of caffeine here. So I've been up since about 6. Was on the square before 7, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But
all right, and we've got a few things to talk about. Not as busy a week as normal.
No, actually a lighter week than normal. So
but some big news.
Yeah, big news. Big news happened, but not as many meetings.
Well, let's take a break from our sponsor, Dennis Young Insurance and Leverage Power Washing.
Yeah,
and we'll be right back to dive into what's taken place this past week.
Sounds good.
We'll be right back.
Get the results you want with the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 1988.
All right. Welcome back in here to the Weekend Wrap-Up Show. And after that last commercial, Josh says he feels like he's been pressure washed.
It was very nice. It was very uplifting music. Very great. So,
all right. Dive in. Tell us what you've been doing so far this morning, Josh.
Yeah, just this morning. Yeah, we're going to go backwards a little bit here. We're going to start with this morning was the Connected Community 5K on the square. I got there a little before 7 this morning. Runners took off right at 8 o'clock. Little over 1,000 people, they said, had signed up, and it sure looked like it. A lot of runners ran by me while I was standing there, so I did not run. So neither did both of our mayors were there and spoke. Neither one of them seemed like they were running either. So we did have, I think, one council person. I saw Betsy Noel was running, and I believe I might have seen Scott Johnson from the county commission running. So we did have
actually running.
Well, they may have been walking
fast
or walking fast.
Okay,
they seemed to, at least they had the official numbers on.
Do we have video evidence of that?
I didn't take videos of them, no, but they were out there. I did see them with my own eyes. So,
all right, well, there were witnesses then. Okay,
yeah,
that's good.
It was good. It was great turnout, perfect weather. There was a chance all week that we may have gotten some rain. We didn't get any rain. It was cool. If I was a runner, this seemed like it would be the perfect kind of weather you want to run. It wasn't hot. It wasn't sticky. So. First winning runner, which one of the pictures that I posted was the winner coming across there. It was like 17 minutes or something. I don't know how he did it. Those guys run fast. No, I couldn't even get my first K in 17 minutes, let alone 5 of them. So those guys are in better shape than me.
Yeah.
So, but it was a good event all the way around, and should be probably wrapping up about now. They had booze and vendors and stuff showed up after, they were going to do a few things afterwards, but I would expect to be wrapping up here pretty soon.
Yeah.
So, and then the only running I ran real quick from the edge of the square back to my car so I could drive over to the VFW and make sure I got my country breakfast.
I saw that.
So, yeah. And they had pork loin this morning. They had sausage. They had fried bologna, biscuits and gravy, eggs, anything you possibly could have wanted. The whole enchilada for $10, best $10 breakfast in town you're ever going to get once a month. So make sure you get out if you haven't been to that. And then that was it so far. Now later on we'll get into stuff coming up later in the day, but that was where we started, and then I came over here, and now we're talking about the week.
Coming in, I had to reroute my
traffic was
route.
Blocked. Yes,
I had to go around town, but I did come by the celebration grounds.
They should be setting up cars right
now. The cars are piling in there.
Cars are piling in there. As soon as we're off the air, I'll be going over to look at cars.
Yeah, and I went to turn left, and they had that blocked, so I went right, and I made it back around, and I had to make a circle.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of stuff going on today.
A lot of stuff going on today. Yeah, and actually, while we're talking about it, let's just talk about it. There's also the fish fry going on this afternoon. And then all day long, it started at 9 o'clock. If you're up in War Trace, is the Strawberry Festival. Right. So there's
that fish fry is for the
Pregnancy
crisis
Yeah.
pregnancy center, and this is
Yeah.
its 19th annual.
Is this the 19th?
19. It doesn't
Yeah.
seem like 19 years, but
Yeah.
19 years ago that was started.
Yeah. And besides fish, they've got the silent auction too,
Right.
To raise money.
That's
so
fun.
yeah.
That's
so
a
you
lot
go
of fun.
in and go in and snipe somebody on a bid
Right,
and get
exactly.
something for
Yeah,
$1
yeah,
more
it
than
gets
they
vicious.
bid. Oh yeah. Yeah, there could be a little fights break out.
Oh,
Or
yeah,
something.
yeah.
So yeah, but so a lot going on. But as far as in the week that just happened, the big story of the week, which we actually did a special broadcast on it, was Tuesday. Totally unexpectedly and quite earlier than we thought it was going to happen, we got a verdict back from the judge in the city-county lawsuit. We talked about it already, but the judge ruled in favor of the city's position that the contract signed in 1974 could not be allowed to go on in perpetuity. It had to have an end date. He decided that a reasonable amount of notice to end the contract would put it ending in July 1st of 2027.
Right.
So as we sit here today, that contract will end July 1st of 2027. So now what we have here is an opportunity for the city and the county to come back together, bury the hatchet, and start working together for the constituents. That's the opportunity we have.
Yeah. Well,
so
I made a prediction early on that the city was not going to win this. I don't know if I said it on there.
Right.
I said the city. There's no way the city's going to win this.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't an expiration date. It's like, but that shows you what I know about legal definition. And that definition,
neither one of us are lawyers
of
who play them on
relinquish-
TV.
no.
So yeah.
the word relinquish was a key word in that,
Yeah.
and it did not mean forever. So
Right.
that's what he's basing this and a lot of the testimony. But like you say, there's an opportunity here to drop all the nonsense and let's just move forward and work together. And I think it's time for a family reunion.
That's what I'm hoping for. Now we are going to discuss here because we want to cover all the options. There's a couple things that could happen, and let's run through what our options are here. Obviously, the judge has ruled, so the losing party has 30 days to file a notice of appeal. So the county commission is going to sit down Tuesday evening after their meeting with their attorneys and discuss their options. So they could appeal. If they go down that road, if they appeal, there's 3 possible outcomes, give or take. One of them has various options, but there's really 3 main outcomes that could happen. The appeals court could overturn it, completely,
Right.
and just say the contract goes on forever. The appeals court could just affirm the judge's ruling as it was ruled and just say the judge is right. This contract ends July 1st, 2027. But what I didn't realize until I'd gotten more information at the meeting we had with our attorneys is there's actually a third option. When it goes to this 3-judge appeals court, they're not just looking at, this isn't like a criminal trial where they're looking if the judge that ruled on, if he missed something
Right.
or messed up something, they're going to relook at the whole
thing.
case as if it's from scratch. So they're going to look at the whole thing from start to finish. They don't have to pick those 2 options we just covered. They've got a third option, which is they can come in and say, we agree that the contract could end, but we think the judge's decision of July 1st, 2027 was kind of arbitrary. They could agree completely with the city and say this contract ended when they gave notice July 1st, 2024, and they could give the city all of that money from 2024 forward. It could cost the county 3 years of that tax revenue, which we did a post this week with the actual numbers. It could cost another $7 or $8 million of education funding if they pushed it to
that's
the
not
appeal and the judges decide completely with the city. Now, the other thing that could happen there, this is a more flexible option. These judges could also rule that the contract terminates in 2029. They could go the other direction as well, but they have full reign over if it goes to appeal, these 3 judges will be making the same decision that the original judge made. They can pick whatever date they want on when that contract ends. So it could go
Okay,
backwards
but
or
the
forwards.
ball is
Yeah.
in the county's
court
at
of whether to
they
appeal.
Okay.
And now here's the other option. They don't have to appeal. They could come to the city and make an offer as well. They could say, we will forego our appeal if you'll sign this agreement here, and make some kind of an offer to the city and say, here's we'll
How about kick it
Yeah.
out to 2029?
quick it out to a different date or something. So
Yeah.
those are some of the different things that could happen, and we won't know a lot of that. We may know some of that as early as Tuesday after
Yeah.
the county has that discussion. They could also call another special call meeting if they decide there's too
Yeah.
much to. But all these decisions have to be made in the next 30 days.
Well,
Because if
honestly,
it just goes 30 days and nobody does anything, the ruling becomes law and there's no appeal.
I think the
past
citizens of Beaufort County and the
So-
city of Shelbyville, which the citizens of Shelbyville
Are the
are
same,
city,
one and the same.
all right, should
Yeah.
sponsor a family reunion and have it over to Celebration Grounds and invite all government officials,
that. And let's get
elected
this
and
done
unelected, get
and move
together,
on.
have a
Yeah.
big fellowship, and have a unity celebration and move
Right.
on.
Yeah.
All this tit for tat is costing taxpayers money,
Yeah.
and it's taking money from one pocket, putting it to the other.
Right.
And honestly, it's exhausting just to watch. I mean,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
time to do that. All right.
Yeah.
Now, if that, I just wonder how many people that are elected and unelected that actually work for the city, work for the county, would come to something like that and shake hands. And I know a lot of them are friends already,
Sure.
but there's
a
some
lot of them are at
animosity.
the 5K this
I know,
morning, so,
but there's
yeah.
a lot of animosity as well as far as working together.
Sure.
That animosity has to go away because it does not serve the public very well at all.
It doesn't help. Yeah. If you're just, if you're on the city side where I'm at, if you're just like city all the time and don't consider the county, and if you're on the county side and you're county all the time
Exactly.
and don't consider the city,
It's-
you need to realize that we're all working for the same
If-
citizens, the same constituents.
If
So,
a group of people got together and had something like that, Josh, how many people do you think would come? Do you think it would be a big blowout?
there is actually such a meeting already on the schedule. Within this 30-day period is the next round of meetings with the Cooper Steel
Right.
event that we've been working with, the 50-year plan. They're actually coming together at the end of May.
Is everybody
city,
coming?
City
on?
and county will all be in one room at that.
That's an
So,
opportunity.
yeah. So that's coming up
Yeah.
in a couple of weeks. So actually, I got the invitation for that this week. So, but that is the opportunity. I mean, the opportunity is there to come together, and then the flip side is if you've got enough people pushing the other direction, it could continue to stay blown up. So,
I'm
yeah.
just at this point. If I'm a county commissioner, I'm saying enough's enough.
Right.
Let's move on. And my
Yeah.
question to you, Josh, and you crunch the numbers.
Yeah.
Basically, we're talking about $3.4 million right now at the current.
2.6.
It's
the number.
2.6.
Yeah,
Okay, that
2.6 was
2.6.
the number. Yeah, we put and I didn't do a full post on it. If you look back
Yeah.
through our comment thread, I actually ran the numbers from the last full budget year. There was $24 million collected
Right.
in local option sales tax for Bedford County. 18.8 million of that was collected within the city limits. So
Right.
that's 78% of our retail business is happening within the city, which
Right.
you would expect.
Right.
Of that 18.8 under the current agreement, 12 of that went to the county and 6.8 went to the city. Under the new agreement, it was 18.8 and a half, 9.4, 9.4 is the split. So that the math ended up being about $2.6 million last budget year. The budget year we're currently in, we're about $1 million ahead of last year's budget as far as sales tax revenue. So you'd be
For a
at
small
like
percent.
2.7. I
Okay.
think it would
All right.
probably going to be the math. For
So
this
here's
year.
my
So,
question. This goes into debt services account,
yeah, this goes into
Okay.
debt service.
which pays off our building projects, pays
Pays-
off the
Yeah, all our bonds,
the bonds
they're
are
outstanding.
paid there. Okay.
Yeah.
So how much of an increase annually do we see in that fund if that money was taken away? You understand what I'm saying? If that 2 point whatever
If that 2
million
point whatever
was
yeah.
not put there at all,
it's
how
still
much? It's still
cur-
on the upswing.
Yeah, at our current level, which we haven't seen the upcoming budget yet. We'll see that in the next few weeks. We'll talk about it as soon as we get it. But at the current level, we're running the most recent year we ran at about a $8 million surplus in that account. So take the 2.6 away from the 8, you still would have had a a 5 point
Increase.
$5 million.
Okay, so
yeah.
here's my question. Why would the talk of property tax increase ever come to the table when you've got that increase in the fund that this money's going to? Why would you ever consider a property tax increase on your county residents?
Because it's a good talking point, and it looks like, hey, the city's trying to take money from
I know.
from
Now,
education.
here's
and
the
we're
thing.
forcing you to raise taxes.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't want to hear that the people in the city don't care about education. I don't hear that.
Right. 'Cause
That is nothing but political. Well, there's a tone right now being set, okay, and it has been through this whole lawsuit that the city doesn't care about education. They're going to take money from our kids. I mean, this is ridiculous,
right.
and
Yeah,
it's
that's not-
and it's not factual, and honestly, it's not hurting our education for that money to be diverted somewhere else. Our education is being funded primarily by the state of Tennessee,
mainly through TISA.
yeah,
it's
and
mainly
then
came from the state.
14-15% from the county.
Right.
Okay.
And the locals. So now that we ran those sales tax numbers, we now know on the property tax side of things, roughly half, it's actually, I think, 48% of county property tax comes from within the city.
Right.
So you got half of your local education funding coming from the city residents already. On the sales tax side, as I just found out when I ran there, 78% of sales tax is generated from within the city. So even under the new agreement where it's half to education, half to the city, 78% of local sales tax funding is coming from the city. It's not coming from out in the county.
I'm going to make a prediction.
Yeah.
This ain't going to, there's not going to be a unifying. There's going to be a war start to take place, Josh. I feel like that there's going to be mudslinging.
I hope not.
I do too. I hope I'm wrong, but I hear rumblings right now that there's going to be a tit for tat going on, mainly a tat from one side. I think the county is not going to take this very well because I don't think right now the mindset there. I think there's a few people that would like to see this, but the overall core leadership, or if that's what you want to call it, don't have the capacity, in my opinion, to make peace.
I'm not ready to go there yet, and the reason I'm not is because nothing has been released as far as any kind of press release or anything. I think Tuesday night is the big opportunity for the county to whatever they're going to position they're going to take on this will come out Tuesday night. And I think this is the opportunity for the county commission to stand up and say, hey,
I challenge that commission.
We're tired of this and it's time to bring this to a resolution. Let's put this to rest so we can move on for the people.
As a county resident, as a county person, okay, I do own property in the city, but I live in the county outside of the city. I am appealing and I'm challenging our commissioners to stop this. Right now, you have the ability to do it. There's 18 of you.
The ball is in their court at this point.
Don't keep spending money. You can say, well, they started it, but it's time to say, we got our butt kicked on this. Let's move forward. Let's get together in a room and work together and make this place better instead of all this nonsense.
Well, that's what I'm hoping for. And again, we'll probably know. We'll know a lot more after the end of the meeting.
I don't mean to put you in a bad position because you're a city council person, but you've seen the environment over the past 3 years, and you've been here.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that tide turns, and we actually do work together. I mean, that's the slogan that I keep hearing. Okay, here's it together. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Enough of me on my soapbox, but I don't feel it right now.
Well, we'll know a lot more after Tuesday. Right. So,
and Steve Jordan said good morning, by the way.
Good morning, Steve.
All right.
So we'll move on from the lawsuit for now. Thursday morning, I went to Business Networking for the Now. We posted the video. If you go back on our Facebook feed, you can see it. Our friend Tina Corley did a great job. They have raised, I didn't even know till I attended the event, over $600,000 for teachers through her organization. What they do with the Amazon lists and the wish lists and all the different things she does throughout the year. So if you haven't had a chance, go back and watch that video. It's not that long, and she kind of explains how you can get in and help out. As we get into the next school year is when things really get going for them over the summer, when the teachers start getting together their lists of what they need, and then you can go on to a Amazon wish list from any teacher in the county. They get posted on that group, and you can say, hey, for as little as $5 or $10, you can help a teacher out with some supplies that they need in their classroom. So it's really good things going on there. And as far as actual meetings this week, the only one I attended was the city council meeting Thursday night we started actually at 5:00. The council did. And first item of business was we interviewed Mr. William Cruz for the Power Board. He had nobody wanted to run against him for the Power Board. He's been on the Power Board, I believe. He told us maybe 6 years or so, or maybe even longer. But obviously unanimously reelected to the Power Board. Everybody likes Mr. Cruz. He's doing a good job.
Good man.
He knows what he's doing there. So Some news that came out and I did a special post about this last night, and this will become more news the next week as it starts happening. Our friends at TDOT are going to repave North Main Street from Walmart all the way down to Lane Parkway. So that's a big stretch. That is the main road through town. And
Got to keep it looking good, Josh.
Yeah, there's a decent number of potholes.
Yeah, there are
right now. So they do realize that is our most heavily traveled road through town. So they are going to attempt to do most of the work at nighttime.
You know, this is beginning on May 15th, which is next Thursday.
Yeah, starting sometime in the week,
depending on
weather.
Beware of that. All right. They usually do it right in the middle of the horse show.
Yeah, they're not doing that.
This is really good.
No,
all right. It's better than August.
Yes,
and
this
right
is not
Labor
during
Day.
the horse show. So now, but they will be obviously, before you pave, you got to mill the road down. So you're going to have daytimes where you're going to have, no pavement.
And you don't want to ride down through there on a motorcycle.
No, that's not a lot of fun when there's no pavement on the road. So just beware. That is our main road through town, and I would imagine it's going to take more than a day or two. That's a long stretch. So I'd say that's a
week.
A bit. Yeah, they've not told us a timeline, but I would imagine that takes a minute. So other things that the city council voted or worked on was we approved the contract with an architect for the new soccer complex over at the park.
200 and how much thousand was that?
Has just a little over 200,000, I believe.
215 or so.
Yeah,
I think.
It was way less than anticipated, which leaves more money in that budget to actually pay for the park.
That's for your drawings and the layout.
And they are representative overseeing the actual construction. They come in and watch the construction and make sure they do it right. So yeah, this is a whole package deal. By getting a decent deal on this, knock on wood, hopefully this allows us to do some stuff that wasn't in the initial phase 1 planning, like maybe some bathrooms and stuff. Yeah. That's what we're hoping to get out of this. But the main work is extending the road, putting a big parking lot in, and then obviously grading and putting the fields in, and all the work that goes into soccer fields actually take a little more work.
Is there any anticipation on what kind of time frame we're looking for this entire project? 2-3 years, you think?
Yeah, at least a year, I believe, a year to 15 months, maybe.
Okay,
once
that's not
it
terrible.
Started for phase 1 anyways. So yeah, I think is what was on there. We also voted, this was the second reading, and we approved changes to the zoning ordinance that increased the open space requirements to 30% on plan unit developments.
And you are proud of this one.
This is one we worked on for over a year. So this came out of growth meetings that we had in February and April of 2024. And these were actually presented by our old planning director, Mr. Waleed Al-Bakri, who used to be here. And these were his ideas. And we were able to get these finally implemented in a little over a year. And hopefully the goal with this is to lead that future neighborhoods that are built within the city limits of Shelbyville have better amenities. They have more park space, more green space, more place for kids to actually get outside and play instead of sitting inside on their PlayStation. So that's the goal with this. And this is not the end of the goal. We've got parking stuff and other things that we're going to look at. We've actually got a growth meeting this coming week.
You're showing your age, Josh. So, PlayStations are out now.
Or PlayStation's not a thing.
Switch.
It's the Switch, the new thing?
Switch, the new thing, Josh.
Yeah. We had Atari when I was a kid.
So we didn't even have Atari. So. We had sticks.
Oh, you had sticks?
Yeah.
Well, we still went out, rode bicycles, and played in the neighborhood, built forts.
And Atari, you got 10 minutes of it, and you kind of got bored. With
there wasn't a lot of graphics involved with that. But that got approved. And then the biggest item that was on the agenda, there were 5 different properties up for rezoning. All were approved unanimously. One of the 5 was very contentious. There was a cover article on the newspaper this past week about it. There was posts on Facebook. There was people in the crowd. Times Gazette, particularly Times Gazette. Yeah, Times Gazette. Don did a great job with an article there. And the neighbors that abutted this property, this was the commercial, or what was currently residential property that wanted to be rezoned to commercial, right on 231. If you're coming into town, it's on the right just before you get to the bypass. If you're going out of the town, it's on the left, literally just right when you pass the bypass. Neighbors were very upset. A lot of them had lived there their whole lives, had grown up there.
Sure.
It had been county property, rural property as long as they'd been there. And we looked at it long and hard. I spoke about it at the council meeting. I was the only one that spoke on it. And unfortunately, there was no, I couldn't find a middle ground between what they wanted and what the developer wanted. They wanted to keep it's 21 acres. They wanted to keep 14 acres of it from being developed commercial. They wanted to only allow the developers,
part.
7 acres of commercial, and then they wanted 14 acres left
Josh,
residential.
this has been
So,
annexed as part of the city for a good while now.
yeah, the annexation happened
20 years ago,
probably. No, it was more recent than that.
Was it?
But yeah, but it's been annexed for a number of years, so it's been in the city
Okay,
for a
that
number
was
of
the
years.
time right there to
Well, the big change happened in 2022. The planning, which this is one of those things, and I've been working in planning now for a couple of years, and this is what happens. The city did a major study in 2020, 2021 on a comprehensive plan for the city going forward for the
development
future.
that way.
A future land use map, what overlays of different areas of town, what they thought were the best uses for these. They held open public meetings
Yeah.
for those. They invited the community to come out, and you know how many people from the community came out to those
Nobody.
meetings? Nobody attends those meetings. The only
No.
people that show up to those meetings, unfortunately, are the developers.
Yeah.
Because the people in town don't realize that, hey, this is going to affect me until a development actually comes in.
Right.
And at that point,
You start
these
seeing the
decisions
dirt,
were made.
seeing dirt move, then it's panic time.
Yeah, the decisions were actually made back in 2022 during these meetings of, what are we planning for the city? So
That's
the
why-
county's actually doing this right now in the county. I attended that one at the
Right.
planning commission there a couple of weeks ago. They are working on the county comprehensive plan as we speak. They've been
Right.
working on it for about 5 years, but that's when these kind of decisions were made. So I talked to, obviously we heard from the people that were immediately adjacent to the property, but I talked to a lot of other people. I even as recently as this morning, I talked to somebody that's actually in the immediate area just to say, hey, what are your feelings on this? Here's what we're looking at. Here's where we've been. Here's where we're going. And they understood. They said, we understand this is the main entrance into
Right.
town. We understand why commercial's going there. And actually the person I talked to most recently said, and this is somebody that lives really close. They said, I'd much rather have this commercial going in there than a big apartment complex next to me.
Right.
So it was, from what, and we only had the two choices. We could either, we could approve it or we could turn it down. And we decided that for the best interest of the city, that the commercial was the way to go in that location. So we need more commercial in the city. Now, the argument I always hear, and we'll go in this real quick, Madison Street, all these empty commercial buildings.
Yeah.
The reason these big national chains aren't coming to Madison Street, unfortunately, is the traffic count. They look at the traffic count out on Madison Street. They see 15,000 cars a day. They look at 231. They see 30,000 cars a day.
I just got called
Yeah.
out and I need to respond.
Okay, go ahead.
Benji Burris says, when you say it's time to work together, then you make the comments about the commissioners and commission not setting a good example. I'm not saying they're not setting a good example. I'm saying they've got an opportunity to bring some unity by going back to the lawsuit, by not voting to appeal this. They will have an opportunity here to bring unity, and this is our opportunity. I'm not saying they've set a bad example anywhere.
Okay.
I'm just saying going forward,
Yeah.
It's an opportunity. So that's what I'm saying, Benji. I'm not saying they've set a bad example on anything at this point. There's an opportunity to set a good example coming up to
Right.
bring unity. So that's
Okay.
what I'm saying. All right.
Yeah.
And Stephen, Stephen, there's an opportunity now for both mayors to get together and work. So that's almost like there's an opportunity ahead to unify this county and city government. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. And
Yeah.
I don't think it'll happen, but I hope it does. All right.
And I'm more optimistic.
I know you're more optimistic, Josh,
I'm
and I hope you're right. But
and
I see a tit for tat and an appeal coming.
I'm going to stick with optimism.
All right,
So,
optimism it is.
Yeah.
All right.
So back to the property real quick. So that was, So the Madison Street argument, I get that, and we do need to do something on that.
Yep.
But we can't force a national chain and say,
No.
hey, you can't come to 231. You got to go to Madison Street. It just doesn't work that way. We should be, and I think we're going to need to start looking at some incentives. Maybe,
There you go.
to draw some people over to Madison Street, but those kind of incentives even are more likely to, and this would be fine, but they're more likely to draw a local business or a small business out to
that's
Madison
fine.
Street than a chain.
That's
But
fine. Tie
anything to get
renovation,
something. Yeah.
renovation to it.
Yeah.
And if you're going to give a outdoor outside the county or outside the city or national chain coming in here, and you're going to give them 7 or 10 years of the pilot program or whatever.
Let's give it to
a small guy that's going to renovate something.
Yeah. And actually, let me give a quick shout out because they were at this business networking. I believe it's called Decor Stop, maybe. There's a new business that did just open on Madison Street. They came from maybe Murfreesboro area or somewhere and have opened a store here.
They've got it looking nice too. And,
they restored an old building.
That's the old Blue Ribbon Leather Company. It's been sitting there empty. It was used for some warehousing, and now it's a retail outlet. So.
It is. So go out and support them, and that's the kind of business we want to have there. So, but we got to get people out to support them. If people don't get out and shop there, they're not going to be able to stay open. So that's what we want there. So a couple other things we did at City Council real quick. The council voted to authorize the city staff to negotiate for a land purchase for a new public safety headquarters. That will be if it all comes together, it will be a single building that will house our police and fire department for the city. It will sit between the Fly Arts Center and the library. And what needs to happen there is there are 2 private property owners that own just a small part of that. Most of that is owned by either the city or the library board or government entities that can just give to the city. But we've got 2 private property owners. If we can negotiate with them, get a reasonable, market value purchase.
You would be going to negotiate with 2 different residents there.
Yeah, 2 different people. And then we would own that entire block. And then that block would then... The next step would be, and we're actually already working with an architect to design a building there that could house both police and fire.
Okay, is the thought process there that the traffic flow might be better than other locations for the guys to dispatch out of?
The thought process is there's a circle somewhere. Mm-hmm. Somebody has the magic map of a circle of where the fire department has to stay to keep our ISO rating. So within that circle, they located basically just 2 properties that were empty enough that they fit with what we needed.
That's probably.
And the first property that they attempted to get, they weren't able to come to any kind of terms with the owner. So they've settled on this one. Now, as far as the emergency traffic, if you were to look at an overhead map in the library where it sits, they're going to run a new road out. This would be south of the library that would hit 82, I think it is there. So all emergency traffic, like fire trucks and everybody going out on an emergency, would go straight out and hit 82. And
you're going to be on a state highway, basically. And then that circle is probably the geographical center
of the area.
City.
Yeah. So they and by doing that keeps the emergency traffic. We don't want fire trucks blasting across the square with their lights on. So all the emergency traffic will go out to 82, then either turn left or right on 82 depending on which direction they're headed. So it works for a location. It seems like there'd already been some preliminary talks with the property owners. It seems like we're going to be able to come to an agreement with them. They're not going to be difficult or anything.
Right.
So once we get past this first step of getting the property, next step will be getting the architect to design the building. Then third step will be how do we finance the building? So which will obviously be bonds of some kind. And we'll just see how we can get that in the city budget. So then the last thing that we covered at City Council was staff was authorized to issue an RFQ. That would be a request for qualifications for a new retail recruitment company. This is the city had a 1-year agreement with a company called Retail Strategies out of Alabama to try to bring in new retailers. The problem with that agreement was they already had a contract with Tullahoma. So based on a non-compete, even though we were paying them for retail recruitment, they couldn't actually get out and talk to retailers. All they could do was give information to the city so the city could do the negotiations. The thought with this will be we'll find a different company that's not tied into another local city, and then somebody that can actually go out and do the negotiations for us.
Here's my question. Shelbyville's got a challenge, I think, as far as doing this. When you hire somebody like this, what are you going after? What type of retail are you looking for? Are you looking for chain stores? Is that what the idea is? Because I know Tullahoma, this group has brought a lot to Tullahoma.
Tullahoma has got a lot
but their demographics are a whole lot different than ours.
Sure, yeah. And
so how do we compete with that?
hopefully that's what this company does is they have the connections at the big national chains, and they just go out and they pitch us. They have to tell, whatever chain, chain XYZ, hey, here's a great opportunity.
Okay.
Here's a growing city in Middle Tennessee that's got a growing population. They're on the upswing. You want to get in now while the prices are good before it's, impossible to get into town, that type of thing. They've got to make that pitch and sell somebody.
So,
on
all right,
us.
do you
So-
feel like it's about population numbers, or you think about its average median income?
Oh, I think the chain is looking at demographics and then also traffic counts and population. They're looking at all that and from how big of an area they can draw from, and they have their own set of, and each one has their own separate set.
Okay,
of
so I
standards.
assume there's others already out there that would probably want to bid for this. Is that the way it's going to work, or
Yeah, there should be multiple companies in this particular business. We're using retail strategy, or they had used retail strategies in the past, but they're not the only company in the Southeast that does this. I'm sure there'd be at least a large handful, if not quite a
okay?
few.
So here's a question: you've been a part of this Cooper Steele's study that they're going about
Mhm.
and trying to bring. I know they're spending a lot of money to get some ideas about how to increase our quality of living here.
Right.
I guess would be the general consensus that that's what's trying to happen. And I know they're going to be doing some studies and recommendations. They've hired a firm to do this.
Right.
Would this in any way correlate together to where a retail recruitment company would come along beside and use their data maybe? Or do they have their own research? My question is, would it pay the city to sit back and wait and see what Cooper's outcome is before we go in and hire a retail recruitment company? See what their, because
What
I
the
feel
recommendations are.
I feel
Yeah.
like our biggest issue is we got to get our median income up.
Right.
That to me, that brings people, businesses, because businesses require money
Oh, sure.
to survive.
They need customers that can afford their products.
Right, exactly. So we've
yeah.
got to get that,
Yeah.
and I just don't know. I mean, it's a challenge. It's going to be a challenge for anybody to recruit, because most everybody's already looked at us. That and they probably got plans down the road. They're watching us.
They may just have us on.
So I guess the question now is how do you sell the city? I've got my idea of how I'd sell the city for a business.
Sure.
And I'm sure other people do too. But what do you think our greatest asset is, Josh, as far as the city of Shelbyville getting retail? What is our greatest draw, you think? And I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yeah.
What is your thought?
Definitely, I'm not in that business, so I don't know in particular. But I would just say that we're in an area of the country, an area of the state of Tennessee that's growing, exponentially, has been for a number of years. People continue to want to come here from out of state. So at some point, we're going to reach that critical mass where we can support pretty much any kind of retailer. I'll tell you just a quick anecdote. This week, while I was out walking my neighborhood, I met 2 new neighbors. I don't know how they do it. They continue to build houses and people move in immediately. They're selling them as fast as they build them. Both of these families relocated here from Florida, of all places.
What do they do for a living? Are they retired, or do they have local
They
jobs?
were both close to retirement age, or may have been retirement age, and both of their reasons for coming back, coincidentally enough, were for family reasons. They both had family members that lived in Middle Tennessee. They had been living in Florida, which is where most people go to retire, and decide they want to be closer to family, and came back here and bought brand new houses in Shelbyville. And both of their families in this case were in the Rutherford County area, but we were a better fit for them financially to buy a house here, which they could afford, versus Rutherford County, which was probably out of their price range. So it was close enough to their family while still being within their budget.
Right.
So we're still a draw that way on budget for people coming in.
So we're basically a bedroom community for a lot of people, because I noticed in some demographics I was looking at, people in the city, okay, and that not the county, because this would change in the county, but people in the city, their average commute time is 27 minutes. Okay, so that's an indication that they're driving outside.
Yeah, they're not driving to the square. I get to the square in a lot less than 27 minutes. Yeah.
How do you, as a bedroom community, draw retail to be a core part of our city when everybody's leaving town to go to work? I mean, is it still a draw? Just
I
having
think
more
if they're
people.
still living there, I think you're
So you
still
gotta
a-
buy something
You got to
here.
buy, and do you really want to have to go to Murfreesboro
No.
every time? I'd rather.
But if you're in Murfreesboro working,
Some
yeah,
which
that's the
I
other
don't.
thing,
Now
you know?
I'm the flip side. I actually work here
Here.
and live here,
Right.
and I do have to go to Murfreesboro sometimes to buy
Exactly.
stuff, and I sure wish it was here so I
Right.
didn't have to drive to Aldi.
The question is how much of that is there?
Yeah.
It's here.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think between the Cooper Steel study, what they're doing, the company they've hired, maybe can bring some enlightenment to what we actually have here to sell.
Yeah.
What we have as a selling point of why to come here.
Yeah.
And why a business might.
And hopefully, I mean, and we're just talking the retail side of things. I mean, what we really need are the jobs, other small industries and stuff to move over into some of those empty spaces over on the east side of town. And I mean, we just had the mattress place that closed down. That's going to be a big open manufacturing space that it sure would be nice to replace that with somebody else that could provide, 40, 50, 100 jobs.
I think our workforce is going to start to see an influx here because of TCAT.
Yep.
And that's going to be a key element. And I see it as one of the most positive things that's happened in the last 5 years here is having that TCAT.
Right.
I think you're going to have kids, instead of pursuing a 4-year degree, going into a trade. And those trade jobs create people that can do manufacturing, people can do service work. Yeah. Your workforce starts to get better. And that's what we need to draw these businesses and these factories in here.
Right. Yeah. If you got to
have a workforce.
Yeah, you got to have a workforce. So
I'm sorry to go down that road, but the recruitment part, I would hate to have to try to recruit somebody here right now, but I could recruit them with a plan for 5 years down the road.
And especially if you can show them that you've got that plan, you're working the plan. That's
a key element.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Sorry to get off on that.
Nope, that's all right. Honestly, that was the end of what I had on the city council meeting, and that was the only meeting I had this week. We got a lot coming up in the upcoming week, which we'll talk about in a minute. But before we do that, maybe we'll hear from our sponsors one more time.
We'll be right back.
Get the results you want with the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 1988.
All righty. Welcome back in here to the Weekend Wrap-Up Show. Josh, what we got coming up this next week?
Upcoming week, real quick, just we covered it already, but today I'm leaving right from here over to the Celebration. They got the big car show, Celebration City Car Show going on all day. Later in the afternoon is the First Choice Crisis Pregnancy Center Fish Fry. And then if you're anywhere in the War Trace area, you're probably already at Strawberry Day anyways, but they got the strawberry thing going on at War Trace today. As far as where I'm going to be at during the week, starting off Monday morning, we'll be at the city pre-planning meeting. This is where we get the following month's projects that'll be on the Planning Commission. This is the meeting before the planning meeting, where all the department heads will be there with the developers and go over whatever's coming up in the upcoming month. I hear we've got a possibly light agenda. I don't know yet if this is a sign that anything development-wise is starting to slow down, but if it is a light agenda, again, we had a light agenda last month, so that could be some kind of a precursor of things to come. We'll see. I know there's a lot going on in the greater national scene as far as tariffs and stuff that could be starting to roll down to the development area. We'll obviously be keeping an eye on that, and 1 or 2 months does not set a trend yet, but just we'll be watching that. Following that pre-planning meeting, the city growth committee will be getting together, and this is where, now that we've got the open space and green space stuff done, going to be moving on to things about traffic study requirements, parking, those type of things, continuing to try to raise the standards of developments that come into the city so that we're getting a better product than what we've been getting in the
Josh,
past.
speaking about traffic, I just want to speak to that. Yesterday afternoon, I got out at about 4:00, and I'm typically not out at that time. I'm usually at work till 6 to 6:30, and it's cleared out. But the traffic at about 4:20 yesterday, I went down Lane Parkway. Well, that was a log jam going to the south side area. That traffic light there by the Quick Mart store and the fire hall, it was backed up, and the little traffic light next to the railroad tracks had the traffic backed all the way up, jamming the big traffic.
Wow.
So that's a problem.
Yeah.
I go on around, I finally get there, and then hit Union Street traffic.
Union Street
that was a fiasco.
Yeah.
That was a fiasco. So we have a traffic problem.
We do, yeah. And I was actually, somebody mentioned at breakfast this morning because I told them what side of town they're on. I was on. They said, "When is the bypass ever coming over on the west side of town?" I said,
"For a long time.
Still not in the 10-year plan that I've seen, so it's a long ways out. But we sure could use it over on that side of town." So, going forward, Tuesday evening, this is the monthly county commission meeting, which will be immediately followed by a attorney-client meeting between the county commission and the attorneys that they hired for the lawsuit. So they will have, they could possibly come out of that attorney meeting and hold a vote on whether or not to appeal. They don't have to come out of that meeting and immediately hold a vote. They could later have another special called meeting if they need to. We spoke about it. They got 30 days to make a decision. Yeah. So this is just the meeting that they already had on the schedule where everybody's going to be there. So they're going to start
optimism from your side.
I am optimistic that they're going to come out of that meeting and say, let's move on with the business of the county. So that's what I'll be hoping for. During the actual county commission meeting, there's a couple interesting items on the agenda. They will be having a discussion and likely vote on adding a budget committee to the financial process of the county. This is allowed under the 1981 Act that they currently operate under. There's been a lot of pushback from several of the commissioners in particular that say, hey, we're getting great scores on our audit every year. If it's not broke, why are we trying to fix it? So they feel like things are great. You've got others that say, hey, we'd like to add an extra layer of transparency here. Let's get this budget committee in and have them look over the budget.
Yeah.
So that will be
well, here's the thing. I think the fear is that the bundling situation might disappear. Yeah.
Possibly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You get the budget committee, and we might not have you have more people with eyes on it that can say, well, let's break this down a little different versus just rolling it all up together and using it as political maneuvering. And it'll
be a different set of eyes on the budget. So I honestly don't know how this is going. I'm kind of feeling like this is probably going to get shot down. There's not the votes, but it may at least get to a vote. So we'll kind of know where everybody stands on it. And then another interesting item that just kind of snuck on there at the very end of the agenda, there's no particular item on there, but they're going to have more discussion on county wastewater.
I think we'll hear from our codes department.
Possibly. It was put on the agenda. It said by two commissioners. I cannot remember off the top of my head who. I want to say it was Biff and somebody else, but I don't remember that in particular. But there's not an actual item to vote on there. It's just a discussion item. Okay. So they're going to have some discussion.
Well, it's good to see after all that came together, maybe there's more talk. It's always good. Publicly.
And it's been a hot topic. Yeah. So, yeah. And then Thursday evening, I'll be at it's our monthly school board meeting. They will be, a couple of things came up on their agenda I thought were interesting. They're going to be discussing rezoning for some Liberty and Southside students. This is where at Southside you currently still have kids and portables. Liberty will have just had an expansion, so they've got room down there. So probably they're going to rezone certain areas of town of kids that are currently going to Southside, and they'll have to go to Liberty. So,
and that might get them out of the portables finally.
And that would get them out of the portables. I do know in general, and I don't know any of the people involved in this, a lot of times school rezoning can be a hot topic. If you're a parent, you've got a kid that's been in school for 3 of their years, and they suddenly have to go to a different school. Sometimes people get upset, but we'll see how that goes. And then the other thing I saw of note on that is they're looking at putting a new roof on the Bedford County Learning Academy and also Community Elementary. That will be up for a vote at the school board as well. So I'll be there. We'll cover all that next week. I believe we'll be here, same time, same
Same
place,
place,
same
and
channel,
same channel with,
we'll be looking at any news that matters here in Shelbyville and Bedford County.
There's always a possibility that we will have breaking news, Josh.
There could be, yeah. If something worthwhile comes up, we'll always jump in during the week. That's the beauty of the internet. We're not on TV. We can just pop on whenever. So,
and we don't have to wait for ink to dry. We can just turn it on and let it roll.
Just turn on and let it go. So, yeah.
All right. Thanks for watching. Again, thanks to our sponsors, Dennis Young Insurance and Leverage Power Washing. Everybody have a good weekend.